Billionaire fakes being paralyzed to test his girlfriend. What happens next? Shocked everyone, undefined. The morning sun blazed mercilessly through the windshield, yet Adrien Veyron felt as though he sat shrouded in perpetual twilight. His fingers drummed against the leather steering wheel of his Maserati, the rhythmic tapping echoing his restless heartbeat. Beyond the wrought iron gates, his estate sprawled like a monument to success, marble fountains catching the light, manicured lawns stretching toward infinity. But wealth, he had learned, made a cold companion. The scent of his expensive cologne mingled with the new car leather, yet underneath lurked something sour, the metallic taste of doubt that had been coating his tongue for months. Cassandra. Even her name felt like silk and poison combined. Beautiful, connected, perfect in every way that mattered to his social circle. Yet as he watched her laugh at last night's gala, diamonds glittering at her throat, he couldn't shake the gnawing question. Did she see him, or merely the zeros in his bank account? The idea struck him like lightning. Reckless, dangerous, but impossible to ignore. What if the money vanished? What if he became vulnerable, broken, dependent? Would her manicured hands still reach for his? Would her ruby lips still whisper sweet promises in the dark? By evening, his plan had crystallized into cruel precision. One phone call to Cassandra, his voice carefully strained with manufactured pain. A car accident, he told her. Spinal damage. The doctors weren't optimistic about him walking again. Her gasp through the phone sounded genuine enough, but then again, she'd always been skilled at performing. The wheelchair arrived the next morning, gleaming chrome and black leather. Even his deception bore the hallmarks of luxury. As he lowered himself into it, Adrien felt the weight of his charade settle around him like chains. When Cassandra swept through the mansion's grand foyer, her heels striking the marble like a countdown, she played her part flawlessly. Her fingers stroked his hair, her voice dripped with reassurance, and her camera captured every angle of her devoted girlfriend performance for her Instagram followers. The comments flooded in. What a devoted woman. How lucky he was to have her. Their love was inspiring. But performances, Adrien discovered, were exhausting to maintain. By the third day, Cassandra's smiles began fraying at the edges. Her patience thinned like morning mist, and her excuses multiplied. Charity events, shopping dates, spa appointments, anything to escape the suffocating reality of his perceived helplessness. When she thought he wasn't watching, her face would contort with barely concealed disgust, as if his vulnerability were contagious. It was during these abandoned moments that Adrien began to notice Marbel. She moved through the mansion like a whispered prayer, her purple uniform, expensive clothes, and carefully styled hair to something deeper, something that had nothing to do with his net worth. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. He was falling in love with her kindness. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening. Cassandra had invited friends for cocktails on the terrace, the kind of gathering that once energized him, but now felt like theater. As the sun set behind the infinity pool, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, laughter erupted from the cluster of guests. Adrien's blood turned to ice as he realized they were laughing at him. "He's just not the same man anymore," Cassandra declared, her voice carrying clearly across the marble expanse. She gestured toward him with her champagne flute as if he were an object of pity. "I mean, look at him. He used to be so commanding. Now he can't even reach the top shelf of his own closet." The guests tittered nervously, their discomfort palpable, yet overshadowed by their desire to stay in Cassandra's favor. Adrien felt heat flood his face, his hands gripping the wheelchair arms until his knuckles went white. The humiliation burned in his throat like acid, but then he felt it, a gentle presence behind him. Marbel's hands rested on the wheelchair handles, her grip steady and protective. She didn't speak, didn't make any grand gestures, but somehow her silence built a wall between him and their cruelty. In that moment, surrounded by shallow laughter and cruel whispers, he felt more protected than he had in years. That night, alone in his bedroom with moonlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, Adrien removed the neck brace and stared at his reflection. The man looking back at him was a stranger, someone who had discovered that love could be found in the most unexpected places, wearing a purple uniform and offering water glasses without being asked. Morning arrived with its usual California brightness, and with it came Cassandra's clicking heels announcing her presence. She barely glanced at him before launching into her plans. Brunch with the girls, shopping in Beverly Hills, anything that didn't involve playing nursemaid to a man she now saw as broken. Adrien's heart hammered against his ribs as he made his decision. "Cassandra," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something." She paused in applying her lipstick, irritation flickering across her perfect features. "What now, Adrien? I'm already running late." Without another word, he placed his hands on the wheelchair arms and stood. The lipstick clattered to the marble floor. Cassandra's mouth fell open, her face cycling through shock, confusion, and finally, blazing fury as understanding dawned. "You bastard," she whispered, then louder. "You absolute bastard! This was all fake? All of it?" He nodded, watching as her carefully constructed mask crumbled. "I needed to know if you loved me or my money. Now I have my answer." The slap came swift and sharp, the sound echoing through the foyer like a gunshot. But as Cassandra stormed out, her curses trailing behind her like smoke, Adrien felt only relief. The weight of pretense lifted from his shoulders, leaving him lighter than he'd felt in months. It was Marbel's soft gasp that made him turn. She stood in the doorway, her hand pressed to her mouth, dark eyes wide with shock and something else, understanding, perhaps even compassion. "You knew," he said softly. "It wasn't a question." She nodded slowly. "Your legs were too strong when you thought no one was watching. Your balance too good when you transferred from the chair. But," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "I didn't care about the lie. I cared about the loneliness I saw in your eyes. Money can buy many things, Mr. Veyron, but it can't hide pain." For the first time in years, Adrien felt tears threaten. "I was so afraid," he whispered. "Afraid that no one could love me without the fortune, without the image. I've been so desperately lonely, surrounded by people who only saw dollar signs." Marbel stepped closer, her uniform rustling softly. "Love isn't about what someone can give you," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "It's about who they are when everything else is stripped away. And you, when you thought you had lost everything that defined you, you were still kind, still human, still worthy." The weeks that followed transformed the mansion from a showcase into a home. The endless parade of socialites ceased. The hollow laughter faded, replaced by birdsong from the gardens and the soft murmur of genuine conversation. Adrien found himself drawn to the kitchen where Marbel prepared meals, to the garden where she tended flowers, to quiet corners where they could talk without pretense. She told him about her childhood in a small town, about dreams deferred but not forgotten, about finding dignity in honest work. And for the first time in his privileged life, he truly listened. More than that, he cared. Their love grew in the spaces between words. In the way she remembered he liked his coffee black, the way he began helping her with tasks despite having staff for everything, the way they walked together through the rose garden at dusk, their shoulders almost touching. It wasn't built on wealth or status or appearances. It was built on something far more precious, the recognition of two souls who had found home in each other. Months later, standing before his bedroom mirror, Adrien barely recognized the man looking back at him. The hollow eyes were gone, replaced by something warm and alive. The bitter taste of doubt had been replaced by something sweeter, hope. When he turned from his reflection, Marbel was there, her smile radiant in its simplicity. No words were needed. They had something that couldn't be bought, sold, or faked, a love built on truth, watered by kindness, and strong enough to weather any storm fortune might bring.